doing Tara's system for real. I was giving examples of the disconnects earlier, and I was just making up to give you examples. Now I'm actually going to articulate what I'm feeling in her system, and we're gonna walk through what we would do when we find these disconnects. So I've got tension, 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 and I've got a high tension in the knees, enough so that it catches my attention, and I would say that is a dormant disconnect. There's a big change in tone, but it is not building while she's here on the table. Then I've got nice medium tension or tone coming all the way through her system. Here I've got, there's a definite change. It's more of a change in the intensity rather than the quality of tone. So this I'm going to keep my eye on and just make sure it doesn't change from being a change in intensity to a change in actual tone. Then coming down the arms, I'm not noticing anything there. Coming into the cervicals, and the mid-cervicals are really low, low tone. And then the cranium has a nice tone to it. So I've got a dormant disconnect on the knees where I'm going from medium to high tension, but it's not building. I've got something that I'm just noticing in here, but it's not a disconnect yet. And I have a dormant disconnect at, let's say, C5. Okay, so I've got two disconnects, they're both dormant. I'm going to address the most inferior first. So what do we do when we find a disconnect? What's our strategy? Well, first thing we're going to want to establish is that we always want to use the least invasive and move towards the most invasive. So the least invasive thing I could do right now, and this is in your notes, would be to say, okay, Tara, thank you for coming in. We've got some disconnects in your system right now. I'm not able to put an adjustive thrust into your body because of these disconnects. I want you to go back to your life, do your life, come back in a couple days, and let's see if these disconnects have resolved. I do not recommend this for anybody. We put time and daily activity at the top of the list because it's the least invasive. It's the person doing their life, which is ultimately what we want, is that in their life, they will be able to become aware of disconnects and be able to become proficient in addressing those disconnects. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But before we've done anything, it's not a very successful technique to employ. So it's first on the list because it's the least invasive, but it's not helpful to us at this moment. So in this moment, my first choice, and before you've done anything with the person's system, our first choice is always going to be breath. Okay, so I'm working on a dormant disconnect in the knees. My first choice is going to be breath. If you don't have a person who's very body aware, don't ask them to breathe in their knees. You can just, while you're holding on to those points of origin, and we're holding on and becoming aware of what's going on under our hands, we can just ask the person to breathe towards our hands. So Tara, can you take a nice deep breath all the way down into your body, all the way down towards your feet? Great. Now I can feel that changing under my hands, but it's not like I can feel her breath moving into her knees. For people who don't have a lot of body awareness, it's tricky. You can ask them just to take a nice breath and see how far it goes. Now, most people, at least in Europe where I live, I ask people to take a deep breath and they do something like this. Like they don't know what it means to take a deep breath. So if that's the case, ask them to take a deep breath. Make a note for yourself, this person doesn't know how to breathe very well. And also be aware that if there is a big disconnect in the system, they may not be able to even feel what's going on below that disconnect. So we give them an opportunity. Now in this case, that was actually enough. Tara was able to take a nice deep breath into her system. Her knees went, oh yeah, I got that. Great. Let's pretend like she didn't do that, and we'll go to our next option, which is a change in position. So what could that mean? I could have Tara stand up. Well, if I have her stand up, she's going to be putting more compression in her knees, and I can feel that her femur and tibia are already a little closer than I would like them to be. So there's already compression in those knees. Tara, have you been doing any extra walking in the last few days?
Yes.
Yes, she has. She walked 20 kilometers yesterday on surfaces that she's used to riding around on her bike. So that I'm feeling that in her knees. And you can always ask people, you might feel a disconnect between one side versus the other in the extremities. It's generally related to a trauma, or it doesn't have to be like a meniscus issue. It can be something like I twisted my knee, or when I was little, I had a big thing, whatever. Just ask. It's always interesting to ask. So change in position. I don't want to have her stand because I feel like that's just going to add more compression. So the other thing I could do would be have her flip over. That's not going to change what's going on in her knees. But what would be helpful, okay, so we're going to lift up these feet just a little bit and see if having that is going to create more ease in that knee area. That would be my second choice, would be a change in position. Now, a lot of you have bolsters in your office, extremely useful. A lot of you will have foot pieces that can be lifted up. If you don't have either of those, lots of things. You can roll up a yoga mat, you can roll up a blanket, you can roll up a towel. Be creative and have fun with it. It's really fun actually to find different ways to create change in position without having specific tools. You can do this, guerrilla adjusting. If you don't have a table, just make it up. Okay, so I can feel that actually is really nice for her system. Her system is very happy with that. Her knees feel much nicer. Let's pretend that didn't change anything. Then we would go to our next most invasive step, which would be a long lever. Now, if we're working in the knees, what would be my long lever? Pulling on her leg, right? I could pull on her arms, but it's going to be more direct if I pull on her legs. So I'm going to have you come in a little closer. And what I'm going to do, now I felt like there was compression and a little bit of internal rotation on that knee joint, which was creating the disconnect. So what I'm going to do is I'm just gently, and please play with this because each person is going to give you a different amount of flexibility and ease when you're using a long lever in their system. But long levers are so powerful and really underutilized, so make sure you have a chance to play with this. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm just gently pulling, and I'm holding on the ankle so that I'm really affecting the knee joint. I'm also creating some space in her hip joints and all the way through her low back. So you can kind of see the way that's moving. As I release, you can see how that's shifting. Now, I could also lift up a little bit. I could put a little more external torque because I felt that internal compression. But what we're doing is we're creating some expansion of that compression and we're addressing that internal torque. The other thing that I could have done is asked her to take a deep breath. And sometimes that is really a nice combination. So Tara, if you can take a nice deep breath right into my hands. Okay, and I'm going to do it on the other side because it was bilateral. When you're in the office, you can pull, you can use your own weight to pull back. It's actually really nice when you do a lot of long levers in the office. It's a great way to stretch during your day. Okay, so long levers are great. What does that look like in other areas? We can use the arms, we can use the hair, we can use the jaw, we can use the ribs. So anything where you feel like you can get access to anywhere in the body with using a lever rather than right on the place itself, that's using a long lever. And really play with the long levers, they're fantastic. Our next choice, which is the most invasive, meaning I'm going to be doing the work and Tara's body is going to be receiving, but it's the least active her system is, which means I'm doing the most of the work. So it's our least favorite because really we want her system to be doing the most work possible. So don't fall into the trap of just saying, well, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go ahead and do the short lever because then I'm the fastest. Because it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the fastest. And it's the least effective way to teach her system to establish continuity on its own. So short lever is a great tool. It's the most doctor-oriented tool, chiropractor-oriented tool, and it's the least effective in teaching the person on the table how to take care of establishing continuity in their own system. So we use it the least frequent. So in this case, my points of origin were laterally between the femur and the tibia. I had compression, pushing those two together, and I had a little bit of internal rotation. So what I'm going to want to do is with my fingers being the short lever, I'm going to want to create some distraction. I'm going to want to create a little bit of external rotation. And I'm doing the work, but I am going to ask Tara to take a nice deep breath for me because that is going to help. And particularly if you're doing this in the spine or cervical spine or in the cranium, the breath is going to be really helpful. So you can see, it's for me, I'm doing the most work and it's my least favorite. But it's really effective. And can I have you take a deep breath, Tara? Great. And we're going to come here, same thing. We're going to do distraction, external rotation. So it's like micro movements, and I'm coming on my points of origin. And big breath.